All right, we're going to dafont.com, looking for free fonts. All right, if you look at the top menu, there are lots of different fonts to choose from in lots of different categories. They have some featured ones here on the front. All right, so just grab one real quick. Doesn't really matter at this point. You'll have some time to go back and browse through for fonts that you think might look good in your Illustrated Quote project later. All right, but for now we're practicing. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this one. All right, when you get your font, you're going to click on the button that says download. You'll get a pop-up box. Make sure that you save it to the desktop. So click on desktop on the side and choose save. All right, I'm going to minimize my browser, and I'm also going to minimize Photoshop. And I'm going to look for that file that just got saved to my desktop. Here it is. And notice the file has a zipper on it. It's zipped. All right, you want to double click on it and then look for the file with the extension that says .ttf, true type font. That is a file that your computer recognizes. All right, so get the TTF. The other one you could get, by the way, is the OTF, open type font file. That one's okay too. All right, but TTF is your first choice, then OTF. You're going to take that file, drag and drop it out of the folder, and drop it on your desktop. All right, now that it's on your desktop, double click on it to open up the preview here, and you're going to click the button that says install. Now if the file is okay and it's been installed, that's it, okay? But if you get a pop-up box that says some sort of error, you can't use that font, go find a different one to download. All right, close that, go back to Photoshop. All right, we're going to go use that font now. You're going to go get your type tool, the big T, in your tool palette, and we're going to use the first type tool, the horizontal type tool. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is simply click and release to set my cursor. I am not going to draw a text box. Text box is unnecessary for us right now. You're going to see this Latin phrase pop up. That's just the default. It's okay. I want you to type your name. It can be your first name. It can be your last name. All right, now when we're in the type tool, you'll see some things happen. The submenu has changed, and now you have some options for your type tool. And over here in the layers palette, you'll see that there's a new layer that popped up, and there's a big T next to it. And if I go to the move tool and sort of click away, you'll see that what I typed is there. There's my last name. And with the move tool, I can move the type around. All right, I can also edit this with my regular edit transform or my regular edit free transform. I can use the bounding box. I can make it bigger or smaller. I can hover on the corner and rotate. All right, but what I want to do is edit the font, the color, and the point size. I'm going to go back to the type tool, and I'm going to click and highlight the text. I have my submenu back. Right here is the font menu. Let's drop that down and take a look at all your preset fonts. And you can see a little preview of it if you moved your text over. All right, and now look for your font you just downloaded by name. Mine was called Antihero, so there it is. And that's my new font. I've got my move tool, moving it around. All right, but I want to change its color. I'm going to go back to the type tool, and I'm going to click and highlight it. And take a look right here where I'm circling. This is the font color. I'm going to click it, and it pops up the color picker, and notice it says text color right there. All right, now I could choose a new text color just by, clicking on my spectrum and my tints and shades, or I can hover on my document and the cursor is going to change into an eyedropper, and you can sample colors from your artwork. Now, this is a good idea when you want to maintain a color scheme and the unity of your color scheme. All right, so for our project, you're going to have a color scheme. All right, so sample a color from your photo to help maintain your color scheme, to maintain unity and cohesiveness. Okay, so we've downloaded a font, we've changed its size. Next, we're going to put an outline around this text. It's called a stroke. We're going to go to Layer, Layer Style, Stroke. Layer styles are effects applied to the whole layer. Right now I only have type on that layer, so that's the only thing going to be applied. We've used layer styles before. Remember, we used bevel and emboss for your sprinkles on your ice cream cone. All right, so we're going to use layer style stroke. You're going to get a pop-up box for layer styles, and stroke has been checked, and you should see the stroke menu. If you don't see the stroke menu, click on the word stroke to the left. Don't just check the box, click on the word stroke to get the menu. All right, so now you get to edit some things. You can increase or decrease the size of the stroke outline. You can change the position. Is it inside or outside or centered? You can change if it's completely opaque or if it's transparent. You can even change the color of the stroke. So right here I can click that and I can change the color of the stroke. I'm just going to go with black. Okay, so we've got our new font. You change the color to match your document. You gave it a layer style stroke. Next, let's go check out the vertical type tool. Hold down on the big T and get the vertical type tool. All right, go ahead and type your name again. Okay, get that type tool, highlight that text, or actually, let's see. Nope. Hey, by the way, I clicked on the document again and it made a brand new type layer that I don't want. No big deal. Notice in the layers palette, it's got it right there. It says layer 1. I don't want that type layer. I'm going to just drag and drop it to the trash can. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. Let's change the font. Change your font, choose a different one. You can use any of your presets if you want. All right, now notice that, some fonts, the letters seem closer together, and some fonts, the letters seem farther apart. All right, you can edit that. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Window, Character. Window, Character. We're going to pop up your character palette. Looks like this. Now you get to change in the character palette a bunch of things. So once again, you can actually drop down the font and you can change the font. See how I don't even have to highlight the text? I just am changing the font. Okay, and then next you can change what's called the leading. You can go and change the spacing between the letters. So it's this one right here, with a little horizontal arrow. And I can change it. So if I make it smaller, take a look, I'm at -75. Now I'm at -100. See how they got closer together? You can also change the height of your letters, like mine's at 100%. You could type in, a different value and make it bigger or smaller. Okay, so from here, I want to add another layer style. We're going to add 2 layer styles. Let's go to Layer, Layer Style, Blending Options. All right, and from here, I want to add a bevel and emboss. So I'm going to click on Bevel and Emboss so that I can see the menu. Okay, remember this? Now you can change the style of the bevel. Is it outer bevel? Is it inner bevel? Is it pillow emboss? You can change the depth. All right, so I've got a bevel. Next, I want to add a gradient overlay. So I'm still in the layer style menu and I'm going to click on the words gradient overlay to bring up the gradient overlay layer style menu. All right, now you'll see here there's a gradient and you can drop that down and you'll see there's a bunch of different preset gradients. There's black and white, there's blues, there's every color in here. There's even things like neon and clouds and iridescent. All right, so since this is kind of an ocean scene, I'm going to go with one of my blues. All right, and take a look at how it looks with a gradient overlaid over the text. All right, you can also adjust the gradient. Do you want it to be straight up and down? And you can change the angle. Do you want it to go from the left, from the right? Right now it's linear, meaning it's going left to right or right to left. How about radial? That means it starts in the center and then radiates out. I'm going to go back to linear. All right, so my second text is vertical. It's got a bevel and emboss and a gradient overlay layer style. And you can see that right here in my layers palette, bevel and emboss and gradient overlay. And then here's my other type layer that has the stroke. All right, last up, we're going to make it look like your text is emerging from the photo. Go back and get the horizontal type tool. Let's type your name one more time. All right, you can make it bigger or smaller with free transform, or with the type tool, you can add your point size. You can also change the spacing if you want. Okay, the color of your text really doesn't matter. What we're going to do is make a clipping mask where we clip a duplicated photo into your name. So let's go to your layers palette, go to your background photo layer. You're going to duplicate it. I'm going to right click on that layer and choose duplicate layer. You could also go to the top up here and go to layer, duplicate layer. All right, so we need a copy of your photo. Copy of your photo. Next, drag that copy of your photo on top of your layers palette above your name. Now it covered everything up. We can't see it, right? So I'm gonna just hide it for a moment. I'm gonna turn off the eyeball for a moment. Okay, go back to your name, the third one that you typed. We're gonna add a layer style. We're gonna add a drop shadow. Layer, layer style, drop shadow. Now, keep in mind that a drop shadow is not the same thing as a cast shadow. A cast shadow is cast onto the ground. A drop shadow kind of feels like it's like your name is floating in front of a wall. All right, so you're in the drop shadow. Make sure you clicked on the words drop shadow so that you have the drop shadow menu. Now, you can change some things. Like, for instance, my drop shadow is black. If you'd like to change the color, click on that black square and you can change the color of the drop shadow. Think about hovering in the document and choosing a color with your eyedropper so that it matches your document. You can also change the opacity. Do you want it to be a little see-through, or do you want it to be totally opaque? And you can change the angle. Do you want it to be, coming from the light source coming from the right and the shadow the opposite? Do you want it coming straight above and the shadow is down below? You can increase the distance if the shadow moves away from your text, and the spread in the size to make it expand around the letters. All right, when you're happy with it, I want the drop shadow to sort of be around the whole letter so that in a moment you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. I wanted the drop shadow to be around the top and more around the bottom. My light source is definitely coming from the top. All right, last step. Turn back on that top duplicated photo and go to that top duplicated photo layer. We're going to right click on it and choose Create Clipping Mask. So what happened is the duplicated photo was clipped into the text, the layer below it, meaning this duplicated photo only shows up in the layer below it. And you know you have a clipping mask when you see that little drop down arrow. All right, let's say you don't want that clipping mask. Right click on that same layer and say Release Clipping Mask. All right, you want it back, right click, Create Clipping Mask. All right, so here's a nice way to make it look like your text is emerging from your photo, definitely integrated into your artwork. I can go to that text layer, by the way. I'm going to go in the text layer in my layers palette, and I can get the Move tool, and I'm going to lock my photo just so that doesn't happen. All right, back to the type layer. Notice that if I move my type around, my text around, that the photo stays the same, right? Or let's say you don't want it to match up. Maybe you want some sort of skewed effect. In that case, I'm going to go to the photograph layer and I'll move just the photograph. Notice the photograph moving inside my text. Go too far and now the photograph's, missing. Okay, time to save this. Let's go to File, Save As. I recommend that you save on your computer. If you save to the cloud, there's a possibility your file could be lost or corrupted. Let's go to Save on your computer. Choose Desktop on the side. Let's rename this Your Last Name - Type. All right, you're going to leave this as a Photoshop document in case you want to edit it later. Click Save and OK. All right, this is now saved to your desktop and you need to upload it to your Google Drive. Now it's time to save this as a JPEG so that you can turn it into Google Classroom. Let's go to Layer, Flatten Image. All right, we're going to flatten all your layers so that you cannot edit. All right, so now all the layers are gone. Let's go back to File, Save As. If you click Save, you're going to save over your Photoshop document. Don't do that. File, Save As. Save on your computer. Desktop. Under Save As Type, let's drop that down and choose JPEG. JPG, JPEG, JPE. All right, so now you've got an extra copy. It's a JPEG. Click Save. And on image options, you can go anywhere 8 to 10. All right, so now I have two copies. I have my Photoshop copy and I have my JPEG. Upload those both to your Google Drive and then upload the JPEG to Google Classroom.